Hello and welcome to Buying and Beyond, the podcast that takes you behind the scenes of retail buying.
We're Kate and Linz, and together we have over 30 years' experience in retail.
We're talking all things retail buying and beyond with real people in retail.
This season, we're joined by more guests, retail buyers, retail businesses, big and small, telling us their stories, how they got started, and what inspires and excites them about retail.
We lift the lid on what brands need and buyers expect.
So grab your drink of choice and come and have a giggle with us. So, hi, Lindsay.
Hi, Katie.
Today we are just by ourselves. We have been joined by so many guests recently, which has been so wonderful, so interesting, and so insightful, with a whistle stop tour around a wide range of retailers with Rosie last week, an incredible and impactful sustainable business story with Ali and Anna Campbell-Jones. We had the real rawness of buying with Shani, and some answers to some of our niggling questions from Life of a Buyer. So it's been a busy season so far.
Mm-hmm.
But in today's episode, we are going to look at what's currently going on. So, what trends are we loving at the moment, or not so much, from our pop to the shops the other week? We're looking at the status of retail. So, any new store openings, any pipeline plans, or any cautionary tales to talk about. And we can't not talk about our first networking event that we held this month, because communication, collaboration, and community are all at the heart of why we set this up. And it's what our business is all about. So, before we get into it, I think we should just clarify what a comp shop is. So, like a competitor shop, a comparative shop. You're basically benchmarking where you sit compared to others in the retail space.
Yes.
It is not, as I have heard it being called, a copy shop. You are not going out there to be like, oh, that's nice, I like that, I'm going to do that. It's definitely something like, so for instance, when we went out this week, we were looking at all areas, weren't we? We were looking at fashion, we were looking at home, we were looking at stationery,
Mm-hmm.
we were looking at a broad number of sort of different product areas. We weren't focusing on anything in particular, because it's not about, oh, look at that dress. We should do that dress in that shape, in that style. It's going, oh,
Yeah.
that dress is really cool. Love the way they've used those colours, and I love the way they've used that fabric. That fabric could be really interesting. I wonder if there's a way of using a fabric like that, or is there a way of doing a technique where we could get something like that fabric and make it into a bag in a completely different product category? Or
Yeah.
I really like that stapler colour. I think
Yeah.
that stapler colour could look really nice on a pair of trousers.
Exactly. It's like being inspired by something.
Yes.
Inspired by a color, inspired by a material, inspired by a fabric, inspired by a shape.
Inspired by a story, like, oh, they're doing a gingerbread theme. I love how they've got all the different colours there. Oh, that makes me think of sweets and Smarties. Do you know what? We should do something on retro sweets. Or, oh, they've got a gingerbread theme there. That makes me
Mm-hmm.
think of other nursery rhymes. Oh, do you know what could be really cool? We could do a Little Red Riding Hood theme, and we
I
could
was thinking
really
Humpty
do a lot of
Dumpty.
red. What did you say? Humpty Dumpty?
Yeah. Don't know why. Oh dear.
But you just like it evokes a thought process and a
Mm-hmm.
creativity in you that doesn't mean I have to do the same. Yes, there's definite elements where you pick up on patterns and you
Yeah.
can be like, oh, there's a lot of palm trees
Mm.
around. And therefore
Pineapples.
pineapples, like there's a real trend for certain things that seem to be really key. And okay, either you think, okay, well, that must be big. Maybe that'll still be big for next year, or clearly there's a customer likes it because there's a lot of it around. It seems to be selling. People are wearing it.
Hmm.
So do you know what? Yeah, I'm gonna do some pineapples for next summer because I feel like they're a really summery like motif and there's a lot of it around and I feel like maybe it'll stick and even if it doesn't, I feel like there's a customer for it. Or you see the pineapple and you go, hmm, people like fruit. Fruit print for summer. Well, if it's been the pineapple this year, then what could it be next year? And I'm going to move it on. And therefore, I'm going to do some fruit next year as part of my range. But I don't think it will be the pineapple anymore.
Maybe
But
it'll
maybe
be.
people, as I say, but maybe people will still be thinking yellow. So maybe I'll go for like a lemon.
I was just going to keep the alliteration and say a pomegranate
Oh, pomegranate, that's
with the white
exotic.
tones and who knows?
But who knows? And it's all about taking that, like a bit of a flavor and then kind of putting it into your own kind of feel and
Mhm.
vibe. And like, does that fit with your product range? And does that fit with your brand handwriting? But you can do comp shops and remain authentic. And I just feel like we have to put that out there because I am
Yeah.
sick of people either saying, don't look at what's out there.
Yeah.
But then I just think, yeah, stay in your own lane. But what about just seeing what other people are doing and feeling inspired by other people and championing other people? And also, it's not a copy shop. Shall we move into today's episode?
Let's move into today's episode.
Let's go. So,
Yeah.
should we start with trends?
Let's
Let's talk
start there.
let's talk about, what we saw when we went out and about. What were we liking? Like which stores really stood out to us and sort of colours and shapes and styles. Like what was it for you that really kind of sticks in your mind?
So I am a big fan of, and I can never say the name. It's really bugging
I
me.
know what you're going to say.
Yeah, can you say it for me, please?
Sostrene Grene.
I am loving them at the moment. I think it's probably because they've just opened a beautiful one in Edinburgh. And I just think they've got a really, really lovely handwriting branding approach. And I love that the whole thing is about store journey as well. So you have to walk around the whole store in a certain way, and it's really personalized to,
Totally agree with that. That is lovely. Apart from when you're
yeah.
suddenly like we did.
Oh
We were like,
yeah, rushed back in.
oh, rush back in because we're like, oh, we didn't buy that, but actually that stuck in my mind. I really want to get that. I don't want to walk around the whole store because I know it's at the end. We like snuck back in, didn't we? Past the
Yeah.
checkouts. Like, don't tell us to walk the other
Don't mind us.
way. And no one see us. No one see
Yeah.
us.
I love the whole like Anna and Clara, like, personalized bits and pieces. And it's just it feels like such a warming brand and like it's
Feels
kind
really
of,
wholesome, doesn't
yeah,
it? Like
really
all the
wholesome.
prices are like on swing tickets, like not swing tickets, but do you know what I mean? Everything's sort of like handwritten, and it
Yeah, yeah.
genuinely feels like you've just walked into like someone's like little boutique. It doesn't feel like a big
Yeah.
chain store.
No, no, this is it. This is it. And I think they do a really good job of emulating that, um, funnily enough, like in quite a similar way in all the different stores that they have. And sometimes that can be a bit lost when it's all sort of the same thing. But actually, you're right, it's so lovely. It's done so well.
And
And I
it
think
doesn't feel like
most,
a jumble sale because I think also sometimes you
yeah,
can find that when it's like small little bit, like little bits, like they're little pickup bits, that if there isn't sort of like a structure and sort of like just really
yeah.
linear like shelves, I think the concern might be that your range would get lost, your items would go missing, you don't know where they're supposed to be. I mean, I have no idea what stock count is like for them because there's no like one set place where it could be. Items are all over the place, but that's the fun of it as a customer.
Yeah, no, I think you're right, but I do think they still do kind of have some sort of structure because it's also hobby based, isn't it? Like everything they have
Mm,
about people's hobbies, which is so of the moment, really, isn't it? And I think they've launched in the UK at the right time,
yeah.
where everybody is so into having a little bit of a side hustle or a side hobby. Um, and they always pull to the front like the of the moment thing. So at the moment they've got a really lovely sort of gardening range, um, in more of the kind of like decorative aspect. And yeah, I mean, I just love going in there for stationery, and I am obsessed with their new highlighters actually, which I use all the time. And
But
price
also
point.
I was just going to say their price points. That makes it even more appealing, doesn't it? Like, and
Mm.
actually, it's quite shocking, because we thought we might just pop in and grab a couple of bits from like Ryman's,
Yeah.
because we were just like, wow, basic stationery. I'm sure that will be cheap. Nah,
No,
that
not
place is
really.
pricey in
You're right.
comparison. Like for somebody where that loves it, like loves, they probably do love, but lives and breathes like stationery, you'd expect it to be maybe a little bit more competitive in pricing.
Yeah,
But no,
definitely.
it was like, yeah,
And the color palette, I love the color palette in there. It's just that kind of like muted pastel tones with just lovely prints. Yeah, I think it's a brilliant brand that's come to our high
it's an
street.
easy way to
And
add color. We are bringing a lot more color into our lives these days.
mm,
Um, but some people I think maybe are still a little bit scared of adding too much color. We've been very kind of conditioned, we've moved away from those changing room days, the kind of Lawrence Llewellyn days of
the zebra.
flair and fanciness.
Yeah,
And I think, definitely when we were growing up, like my house, when I was growing up, like every different room had an assortment of different colors. Like the kitchen was bright green and like the
yeah,
study was bright yellow and like the living room was like an auburn color with some aubergine and some print. And then it was almost like if you walked in or you saw one of those houses, like then on, in more recent days, if you saw a house like that on like
yeah,
Rightmove or something, you'd be like, oh, I need to do the whole thing up. Whitewash it all. Whitewash it, beige carpets, beige walls. And people were sort of then only really starting to put a bit of colour in with accessories. But I feel like
yeah,
people are going braver. Wallpaper is fully back.
yeah, definitely.
When I
No, I
moved
think
into this place, what, 4 or 5 years ago,
mhm,
I was dabbling because we had a blank canvas.
mhm.
Um, and I was like, oh, shall we go with a bit of wallpaper? And oh, I hate to say it. I was too nervous 5 years ago. I was like, oh no, because, oh, I'm not sure about
It
it. It's going to
still
be
felt
too
a bit fuddy-duddy,
much.
didn't it? About a couple of
Yeah.
years ago. Yeah.
Whereas now, if we were moving in now, I would not hesitate. I would wallpaper. I'd have
Yeah.
some really beautiful prints. But no, I had loads of swatches up on the walls and I couldn't quite bring myself to do it. And I was like, I'm just going to do colour with accessories. And I think that's what Sostrene Grene offers is like you can bring your colour in, but with accessories. And that's where you kind of start and you can like build it
Yeah.
up from there.
Yeah, I think they're a real like of the moment brand and be really, really great to watch their progress.
Yeah, and I think you're right in terms of like they've come at the right time because bringing a bit of colour in and they've got the right kind of like trend and feel and the price point with that kind of being a little bit harder maybe at the moment, people being a bit reluctant to spend too much. But they are absolutely accelerating their growth. Like I've
Yeah.
been really surprised. I think what they came on the scene maybe 2 years ago now. Was it
Mhm,
two and a
mhm.
half years ago? We were starting to hear like they were opening their first store in the UK. And now it's almost, I mean, I know of at least 3 or 4 towns that
Yeah.
are
I've
having
had
them
them.
opening up.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
exciting, so great.
Good for them. Good for them. Watch this space.
Definitely. So yeah, they were a real front runner, weren't they? And what else? Who else?
So obviously it was very exciting. I don't know if people saw our stories, but we were in the iconic Topshop to see what IKEA have done in that space. Now I
That
say
was interesting that was
exciting.
opposite where Sawstron is.
Yeah, exactly. Now I say exciting, but it's kind of a mix of like sadness and excitement
It's a
because
funny
I
feeling to go back through those
yeah.
doors.
But I do love IKEA. I am a big fan of IKEA as a
Yeah.
brand. I think that they do things really well. I've mentioned this a few times in other episodes about how much I think they invest in researching their customer. I think there's a really, really amazing lessons to be learned about what they do with all of that. And I've kind of always felt like a marketplace in central London would is just a no-brainer, isn't it, really? Like a IKEA marketplace where you can pick up all the bits and pieces in the market hall.
Mm,
You can carry that home on the tube. It's fine. You're not carrying home, a huge wardrobe on the tube. Could you imagine?
yeah. Yeah. Well, it does
Don't
come
mind me
flat
down the
packed, so
escalator
we
with this
don't
Billy bookcase.
never say never. Flat packed, couple of people, all under your arms,
Yeah.
doable.
No, exactly. So yeah, it was quite interesting to Like we kept going down these different escalators, didn't we? We're like, are these the escalators? Are these the iconic
It's no,
escalators? Are these
no,
the
it wasn't even a question, mate. It was every time you stood on an escalator, you were like, the iconic escalator. And then you got to the bottom and you were like, oh, maybe that's the iconic escalator. Each one we got to, you were like, the iconic escalator. Oh, maybe that's the. Anyway, so we spent most of our time in IKEA riding on the escalators,
Yeah, we did, didn't we? Trying to find the iconic.
closing our eyes and just like remembering where we once were. Young
Yeah,
girl, shopping
lots,
day
lots of
on a
memories.
Saturday,
Yeah.
not picking up washing bowls.
Not sure anyone will get that inside joke, but anyway, yeah. Um, and then who else? I obviously I bang on about this as well to Kate all the time. I do love what H&M Home are doing as well. I've
Mm.
been a big fan of following them as they've sort of evolved and again opened new stores, different places. I think that they're sourcing from some really interesting places as well. Like a lot of their tableware is from Portugal. Great accessible price points, really beautiful finishes, lots of stoneware,
Looked
fantastic
very
colors. Like,
luxury,
yeah,
like
it feels
especially their
very
store on Regent Street. It's not what you think of when you think of, or when I think of H&M Home, I think of the area in the store that has a bit of H&M Home, which are a couple of like, tag on pick up pieces, which are always like great price point and like quite trend pieces and just yeah, lovely pieces. I'm like, oh, I'll just add that on while I'm buying X, Y, and Z clothes and
Mhm.
accessories. But it was really interesting to go into that store that is solely dedicated to homewares and
Yeah.
actually feel like I was in really quite an upmarket, more luxury retailer.
Yeah, no, I think they do it so well. They execute it so well. And again, price points are so accessible. I thought to myself, what colours are we seeing coming through? And actually, you described a yellow in a really lovely way when we were walking around Marks and Spencer's. What did you say? Buttermilk yellow?
Ah, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I loved that. I thought that was really interesting. Like more of a, because we've seen a lot of sunshine yellow, haven't we, coming through over the last few years. But now it's kind of becoming a bit more pastel, a bit more muted down, a bit more Sostrene Grene, muted pastel kind of
Yeah,
tone.
I know what you mean. It was lovely in M&S. It was the more of a pastel. I think it was in stories and other
Mm.
stories where we really saw quite
Yeah,
a large palette of it, and it was that even more sort of softer, muted tone. It
yeah.
it didn't have that kind of punchiness of a pastel in a way. It was like really soft. Yeah, that was I think where it was. And they had it paired with a lot of that kind of like light blue.
Yes, I was just gonna say the blue. It was like it's that nice sort of Scandinavian blue. You were looking for that in your bridesmaids dresses, weren't you?
I was, yes, yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes, exactly that kind of a blue. Yeah, it
Yeah,
was beautiful. It's funny, yellow's always an interesting color because I think it's the kind of color that most people are like, oh, not me,
not for me.
or couldn't pull it off,
Mm.
or but then actually you can, and I always think it looks really good on like a dark skin.
Yes,
Because
agreed.
a yellow real like those kind of skin tones, oh, beautiful. And I always thought, oh, never me. But then I always think back to How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days.
Oh, and that yellow dress that she wears.
And she's blonde and fair skinned. I mean, fake tanned, but she's
Yeah.
fairly fair skinned and blonde hair, and it looks stunning on her. So I was
Yeah.
like, actually, I think yellow is a color that, in the right tone, actually can suit a lot of people, most people, and we shouldn't be so scared
Yeah.
of it. And that's
Do you know
what I
what?
think that's what this summer's going to teach us.
Yeah, I think so too. Do you know what's really interesting? And I might be wrong here, but just from what I've seen, is that we've kind of transitioned out of those kind of really fluorescent bright colours like the limes and the yellows that were quite bright, like a
Hmm.
highlighter. Like you look like
Hmm.
a highlighter. Which is great for when you go skiing. You need to look like a highlighter on the
Yeah, I still
um
absolutely adore those colors, but I know what you mean.
yeah, and I don't know if I've seen as much of that coming through. Again, it's become a bit more, colours become a bit more pastely, a bit more milky. It's
Yeah,
still
some of
bright,
them,
it's
you're
still
right.
bright, but it's not the
The
fluorescence.
fluorescent ones so much. I know what you mean. I do know what
Yeah,
you mean.
interesting.
But just on your point about H&M when you were looking around to kind of like think about what the trends were, I was actually surprised about the lack of color in there, but that almost made it feel like it was that kind of slightly more luxury because it wasn't necessarily about color or color
Mhm.
coordinating or having this is like the blue theme and this is the red theme. It was
Yeah.
more about the materials that they were using, like you were saying, like beautiful sort of like stone and beautiful marble and that and like ironworks and metalworks and things. And
Yeah.
I think that's what stood out to me most in H&M was actually it was quite a contrast to sort of the other stores
Mhm.
where they were kind of more color focused.
Yeah, that's interesting. And then that kind of like burgundy red and the rust red coming through, which
Mm.
is it is it is a color. Obviously, everything's a color, but it's kind of not like a scary color anymore.
I
It's
think it's a color that you naturally associate with winter
Mhm.
and autumn, and actually it's actually a really lovely color
Yeah.
to have in the summer because it makes you think of kind of like the kind of terracotta. Makes you think of holidays actually when it's paired with like a white.
Yes,
But
definitely.
most often you'd see a burgundy paired with like a black, like a leather jacket and like a burgundy silk dress or something,
Mhm.
rather than like a little burgundy jacket with a white tee. Like,
Yeah.
it's funny,
Yeah.
isn't it? But you did mention M&S there.
Hmm.
They were looking good. I have to say my standout product, and I did actually post it because I could not leave it. Those beautiful pistachio knotted sandals. I'm
Yeah.
still thinking of
Stunning.
them today. I'm trying to think of an occasion that I could wear them to.
You had a lot of people comment on those, which is quite interesting.
Stunning.
Yeah, I mean M&S are killing it at the moment, aren't they? I mean, obviously they've had some really hard times to deal with, but in terms of the product range that they've launched, it's just like I know so many more people that are shopping in there now that I would never have thought would shop in there. And it's great to see them the journey that they've been on the last few years in terms
Yeah,
of
and actually,
design
I
product.
don't think that I had a slight wonder at one point whether or not they were going to alienate that kind of older customer, but
Mm.
I don't think so at all. I think they're doing a really good job of actually just introducing a new customer,
Yeah,
walking through, particularly walking through their larger stores. Like I can really see that they still have they have something for everyone, which is super
yeah,
inclusive. But
yeah, yeah.
let's talk about M&S and what happened very quickly. Let's not dwell on it because let's face it, they probably don't want to talk about it anymore. Anytime I go into a store, they just sort of sit there, not sit there, but they're standing there when you're getting served and they just look so, they've still got people coming up being like, oh, could I get this in a size? Or, oh, could you just order? And I mean, by the time this episode goes out, which is not that long because we are pretty much recording this at the sort of
Same
time that
time.
it's,
Mm.
yeah, but who knows? I only hope that we can, that online orders aren't poisoning because I have put so much in my basket.
Yeah.
Um, and I am ready and I am poised to shop. But I do feel for them. They've got people coming and being like, could you just order? Could you order this? And they're like,
It's so frustrating for the sales staff, isn't it?
but they're not the
I get
only
hold of the stuff.
ones. Have you heard North Face?
No,
North Face, they have also
a
been under
recent one.
cyber attack. Yep, in the last like couple of weeks, and Cartier as well.
Oh,
So I
really?
think if anything, it's just a bit of a like, let's. I feel like when it happened to M&S and everybody's rallied round, and there have been a few people being quite like cynical of like, how could that have happened? Other people just sort of thinking like, God, I can't believe that happened. But it's not right. I feel like now there's a few more. We can't treat M&S as an isolated incident, and actually it needs to be more of a warning or an alert for us all to think, okay. And I can only imagine having worked in retailers and having been on that kind of the crisis, who do
Side of things. Yeah.
management side of things, like everybody following an M&S, anyone in their right mind would have been thinking, okay, well, what are our contingency plans if that situation was to happen to us? What are we going to do? Um,
Mm.
but I would say if people
The
haven't
IT department has never been more
inundated,
vulnerable. Never, yeah. If this is
but
your
I think
moment.
it needs to be, it needs to people need to be thinking, if you were shut out of your systems completely,
What
what
would
are
you
you going to do? Like, if you can't access any information, how are you going to get hold of suppliers?
do?
And if like, how are you going to keep that stock going? Like, what is your next step, next
Policy.
step, next step? Yeah.
Yeah.
What is your go-to plan? Your evacuation plan,
Yeah.
for
And
example,
what,
of how are
yeah,
you
and
going to make sure that you can keep your business running
yeah.
if something similar happened to you? And I think it's for all levels of business because I don't think anybody is untouchable because all of our information's out there and we are so reliant these days on technology and IT systems.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I mean, it's the stock mismanagement and not knowing where anything is. That must be an absolute nightmare. You poor merchandisers out there must be tearing your hair out, literally, you know.
I just feel like
Just
with things like that, and coupled with so many things, it's like retail can't cut a break sometimes. Because the other thing, obviously, we all know with the budget, and we were just talking about this the other day to somebody, weren't we? Not only is the tariff things, because let's not get into that, because
yeah, that's a
genuinely, I
whole
just can't
another
even,
episode.
like, it's so volatile
Yeah,
that we'll say one thing what this minute, and
it'd be changing.
in
Hmm.
about an hour's time, probably something else will have happened. So let's not even bother wasting our breath, because I think that unfortunately is a bit of um a moving beast. But
Hmm.
the national insurance contribution's increasing. Now I know that is a hit for a lot of people, but I heard that Tesco are now considering closing some of their stores an hour early because they've been hit by such a bill of staffing costs.
Yeah, it's
And
crazy.
because they're so big, actually, it is a large proportion.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm not upset for me being like, oh no, because I might need to pop to Tesco at 5 o'clock and they've closed at 4, which will be
Mhm.
frustrating because I'm not planning ahead and got kids to feed. But more for for also people that work for them.
100%. But it's just going to encourage large scale retailers to invest more in those uh what do you call them, self-serve checkouts, or look at other processes where they don't need people. It's just going to push that further
Do you know
into
what?
the makeup of a large scale business, isn't it? And we're
Yeah.
just moving further and further away from human interaction.
Which, Lindsay, it's almost as if you're reading my mind, right? Because one of my points to talk about was going to be about the self-service tills. I don't know if you know what I'm going to say about this. You're just
I
like
think we just have the same opinion, don't we, really?
conveniently, yeah, segued you into that. Segued you?
Yeah.
Segued you into that. But Tala,
Legged you into that.
Seggy,
Oh.
Tala's first bricks and mortar store. Right,
Hmm.
opened on Carnaby Street. Did we think we'd see the day? I thought they were just like an online. So that's super interesting. But what I thought was the most interesting quote out of all of it. So the fact they've opened a store is brilliant. Like, check it out if you're in London. I also thought London was an interesting choice. I don't know why. In my mind, when I heard Tyler had opened a store, I just went to Manchester.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
just
Yeah.
immediately thought, oh, it must be in Manchester. And I think because a lot of those kind of like quite young um up and coming brands, quite sort of smaller but fast moving
In that
brands
space.
are
Yeah.
in that
Mhm.
space. So I just assumed it. So I was like, oh, London, interesting choice. But I really love that they chose London, love that they chose Carnaby Street. And for the reasons being that they didn't necessarily want to sit next to a competitor, but they
Mhm.
wanted somewhere where their customer could just um spend time and just it to be part of their kind of like part of their day, pop for some food. There's lots of other shopping retail outlets there. It wasn't
Yeah.
necessarily like pinpointing themselves next to it. But my point being, the most interesting quote I thought was from the CEO, who said, "We're now in the hospitality business." And at
That's
first I was like, "Oh, she's so long in online, she doesn't realize she said hospitality. They're a shop.
yeah.
They're not a, they're not a pub. What's she talking about?" Really grabbed my attention, for one, that statement. But then she followed up with, if all a customer wants to do is transact, then she can do that online.
Mm.
So when she comes into this space, i.e. the store, we're hosting her.
Yes.
I love that statement because that's exactly what we've all been talking about, experience.
Experience.
And exactly what you were saying, actually, self-checkouts versus experience. If I just want to go to a store and do it all myself, I might as well be sat on the online, right?
Yeah.
On the
Yeah.
online, on the
That on
computer.
the online.
Might as well be sat on the online. Um, but
On
actually,
the
are
World
we
Wide Web.
on the online where we're moving?
Welcome to AOL. Oh dear,
But
I just
where
need to
we're
dial up my
moving,
pen.
where we're moving so much to these self-checkouts and we're trying to save these costs because we're being hit by a bill and therefore we're trying to cut down on staffing costs, but we're losing that human touch. We kind of felt anyway, but a bit like, oh, we're going down this automated. But I thought that exactly right. You're hosting. Why
Yeah.
should someone come into a store? And actually, for many retailers, and it may not be the case for all, but for many and majority that I'm aware of, actually your bricks and mortar store are more profitable.
Hmm.
Online can often be your least profitable channel because
Yeah.
of all your overheads, you're responsible for all the shipping, you're holding all
Delivery.
the deliveries, like, you know, there's
All the
a,
technology that you need to invest in it, the high res images, the moving content. Like people
the
forget
people power
about those
behind
overheads,
it.
don't they?
You still need people to do things. They're
Yeah.
just hidden. They're just not necessarily customer facing. So it's an interesting one, isn't it?
It's really, really interesting. And I think that it also opens up that a lot of brands are doing like pop-ups, aren't they? They aren't really investing in like long-term leases. So a lot of these brands are doing like, yeah, hospitality style event pop-up spaces, and they see how it goes. They're testing the water. Before they then go out and largely invest in buying up retail spaces or being in a long-term uh property, or I think, yeah, it's, if anything, what I've learnt from the garden centre industry is that it is so important to have experience in your store, because people are now looking for more of a day out than to go and pop into the shop to buy something. Because, like you
Yeah.
say, they can do that online.
Yeah,
Just
it's less
thing.
transactional.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I think it is really an interesting space now. And there's so many other brands doing experience stuff like Islander. I don't know if you've heard of them. They're a Scottish brand, and they're doing like make your own tartan bag workshops and things like that. And there's loads of other people, aren't there, doing more like flower arranging style workshops in the store, or um like hen parties. And yeah, it's just gonna, because the hospitality industry is suffering as well, isn't it? So
Well,
like,
yeah, although we talked about this the other day and I said, well, not where I live. It's all we've
yeah,
got.
that's
It's all we
yeah,
do. That's all we do. Honestly, there's like minimal shops and just lots of places to go and eat and have a coffee. Although someone was pointing out to me the extortionate price of a coffee these days and how much it is basically doubled in price in about a year and a half.
it is so expensive. I
And
was thinking
that's,
the other day when I was
yeah.
buying us a
And
coffee.
I
Well,
always thought it
okay.
was a good one to have because the margins are quite high. That's what I've always been told. Like margins on a coffee beans are always quite high. But actually now apparently, I mean supply and demand, but it's not that cheap to do anymore because it's so saturated and actually
Yeah.
it's actually quite expensive. Was what I heard. But I'm no coffee expert. So if anyone listening is actually a tea and coffee buyer and wants to correct me on that, then please
Come
do.
on the podcast.
Um,
Yeah,
but I have to
happy.
say, Tala for me was it's a glimmer of hope for the high street,
Hmm.
hearing
Yeah.
that. And love what you're saying about, all these different experiences and workshops and things like that. But I also think it doesn't necessarily always have to be something as organized fun as that, because even
Mhm.
us just walking down Oxford Street, there was a bubble machine outside Lush.
Yeah.
And we were like, oh, bubbles, like 5-year-old kids would be. And we were like, that's fun. And in we go. And I mean,
Yeah.
we wanted to pop into Lush anyway because they do experiences. So
Oh God,
we've
Lush,
talked about
Lush
it
do some
before, haven't we?
really, yeah,
A
really good store
spa
experience.
and their
Mm.
fresh flowers and just the way that they bring their product to life. Like, there's definitely parts of it where you're like, am I in a deli shop? And you're like,
Yeah.
what? Because there's, all these different kind of cuts of soap that
Yeah.
you're selecting from, and everything's like beautifully wrapped and also really sustainable. Like, there was some the handkerchief wrapping, gift
Yeah.
wrap was great and
Yeah.
reusable and all of that. Like, but yeah,
It's really
something as simple
thoughtful.
as a bubble machine, a little flower churning
That's what
around,
got you
bubbles
in there.
floating out, just brought me in.
But yeah, it is so important, isn't it? Display, experience, authenticity, sustainability. Like there's so much poor retailers, bloody so much to think about these days.
There is, but the fact that the high street might be coming back
Yes.
is makes me
Exciting.
happy.
Hmm. Me too. Me
That
too.
makes me super, 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 super happy. Um, what else was I going to say? Just when we were talking about stores, another one to mention I thought was just B&Q.
Hmm.
I mean, they've got definitely a great position now. Homebase has sadly gone, but it
Mm.
gives them even more of the weighting, right? And
Yeah.
they're putting more into their store experience, which I think is again needed. Like, how do
Yeah,
they
I know.
lift
I
that
mean,
experience?
someone that's cob shopped B&Q for quite some time now, I totally agree with you. And also as a customer, because you go in there to buy paint, and I'm just so overwhelmed by all the different paint brands. And
Hmm.
that was always that struck me mostly when I was in there. How can they have more directional signage, point of sale for someone that doesn't really know that much about paint, but I know what color I want, but I don't, do you know what I mean? It was, yeah, it's a bit fearful. And I think also, the DIY sector, home improvement sector is booming, and you're getting more people in there that are a bit more of a um novice. I don't really understand that much about this industry. So more educational signage, pods, direction around their stores would be really helpful. If you're listening,
Definitely.
thinking.
If you're listening. Well, I think what's very, very interesting in that space as well is like, so I read an article by the retail director, and again, like it's just certain sayings that then really stick in your mind. And I know we've got a guest coming up actually that has a really, really good saying about, continuing to improve. I won't have any spoilers for that, but it's certain sayings that people have that then really stick with you. And I thought B&Q's retail director had a really, really interesting point when they have a number two mindset.
Okay.
They don't think that they're the biggest and the best, right? They think they're number two. So how are they going to do it better? How can they always continue to improve? And they never give themselves the idea that they are number one in the sector.
That's
And I thought,
really
yeah, if you're
interesting.
always sort of just thinking, oh, we're not quite there.
Yeah.
We're doing really well, guys. Got this number, we're sort of like second in the market. How are we going to get better? How are we going to be the number one? Actually is a really good way to sort of stretch yourselves.
Yeah. Brilliant. Love that. Very encouraging.
Um, One of the other things that also gives me a bit of hope for the high street is the news that, although it's probably not so new news now, but that Topshop, Topman are they've confirmed that they're going to be launching a permanent or, well, semi-permanent space on the high street. So it's
Excellent.
not going to be online only, which obviously when Topshop ended, was bought by ASOS, it disappeared from our high streets and it went online only. So it's really interesting to see that it will be returning, and I'm really excited to see what it's going to be like. And I'm really, really excited to see what the customer is like.
Yeah, me too.
Who is it going to be appealing to? One, what's the range looking like, and who are they? Who do they think their customer is? But two, there's going to be so much hype about it. Who's going to be queuing around the corner for it? Who's going to be
Yeah.
making up that queue? I'm
Yeah,
interested
no.
in that.
Yeah, I
Um,
think you hit the nail on the head there. They've not really mentioned too much about styling, like, customer type, materials or anything, have they? Or any kind of, brand. They've not even put any branding
no.
out, really, have
And
they?
that, as you touch on with materials, is also a very interesting one because yes, we want Topshop back, and I think we mentioned this, but yes, we want Topshop back. But do we want Topshop as Topshop was? No. What
Yeah.
is the modern day Topshop? And let's hope that everybody's
It was
thought
a
of.
very quick response there. No. We definitely don't want that. No, I
But
think
you know what I mean? Not in its
it's more
state
that
that it
you can't
was.
recreate it, can you? It's like when sometimes people do too many movies of the same thing, and then it kind of tends to lose its authenticity.
Or going
Like,
back on the same holiday because it was so great.
yeah,
Go again and
yeah,
it's not as good.
exactly. Going back to the same place, like,
Yeah, totally agree with all of that, but I'm also thinking from it's like just the world's moved on, and I hope that Topshop has too, and it doesn't stick with fast fashion
yes,
from
agreed.
its sustainability point of view, and that actually all of its thought process in terms of like what materials they're using, how many units they're placing, um, that all
Where
of
they're
that,
sourcing their products from.
yeah, that they've
Uh,
modernized in those ways, and we're not just bringing Topshop back
yeah,
for the
agreed.
overconsumption that it was.
In the end.
Right, so We can't not talk about our first networking event. We've said that already. Um, but we hosted our first networking event for buyers,
Mhm.
created by buyers, and we did it in association with Life of a Buyer. And we
Mhm.
had a really, really, really good response, didn't we?
Had an amazing response. Yeah, it was kind of a bit reassuring and kind of really reaffirmed what we were thinking, that what we needed when we started out, and even much further up the chain. We needed space to sort of share ideas, share processes, share ways of working, not share
Offload.
offload, not share confidential information, really aware of that, but just kind of sort of think. I remember thinking to myself, am I going mad? Like, is this really happening? And like, what's happening elsewhere? I need to know, kind of thing. Because you get CEOs going for dinner with each other all the time, and they're not sharing confidential information, they're just sharing their experiences. Why is there not something like that for us at the slightly lower levels? The people that actually are being now in lots of trading meetings being turned to say, what do you think? How should we do this? How should we deal with this situation? So we need that more than ever. And
But
I
also
think
the
it's,
ones that are going to implement it. So if
yeah.
there is a big idea or something that we're going to do, can you even do it?
Mhm.
You know,
Mhm.
like, oh, okay, well, that business is doing it. That's great. But can you even do it? Asking the people, we're the people, we're the faceless buyers.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, we were inundated with sign-ups, weren't we? And apologies to anybody that we had to put on the wait list. It's just we needed the venue, but the venue could only hold so many people.
Yeah,
Um,
it was something that we
and
pulled together at very, very short notice. We've been thinking, it's been something that's been in the pipeline for a long time for us.
Mhm.
As Lindsay said, like as we've been kind of working up our way in our careers. And we've just bitten the bullet and just thought, you know what, just do it, just pick a date. And we didn't want it to be too far away because, otherwise you get cold feet and you just don't do it. So we were like, no, we're doing it. 2 weeks time,
Yep.
we're going to do it. We had the conversation with Life of a Buyer, who also very much supported it and agreed it's exactly what we need. But from a kind of anonymity point of view, she was unable to do anything like that herself. So
Yeah.
collaborated and put it out to everybody. So yes, it was great. We had to move the space so we could have something a little bigger. And
It
even
wasn't big
that
enough.
wasn't big enough. And it very much was just a pilot one, just
Mm.
getting sort of the first people to sign up just to kind of join us and talk about it. Like, what do you want? What do you want to get out of this event? To meet
Mhm.
others and just sort of see how the space would work.
Yeah.
So we're super, super excited, super motivated. Like, we had some really good conversations, had some great feedback at the time. Would love more feedback. It's
Yeah.
never too late to feedback. So, drop us a message on Instagram or hello at buyingandbeyond.com or pop on our website and
Yeah, pop
contact
on our
us. And
website, join the wait list.
we are easily messageable. Messageable, that's not even a word. Anyway, contactable. We're easily
Oh,
contactable. So definitely it's never too late. So we are looking at doing a bigger and better event. We are already scoping out another space.
yep. Hmm.
And we are putting in our diaries for around mid-July. I'm
Yeah.
hesitant to say the exact date because we obviously need to make sure that we've got everything in place and do everything that we want and manage to secure it.
Yeah.
But we're looking at a Wednesday in mid-July. So
Yep.
just to kind of put that out there. And if you're on the wait list, you will hear first about it.
Yeah.
If you've already been, you will also get a message direct to your inbox. So if you want to be one of the first to hear about it, then as Lindsay said, like join our wait list, which is on our website, which is www.buyingandbeyond.co.uk and /event, or you can find it on the menu under networking event. Um, but yeah, we've got lots of ideas. I'd
Mhm.
love to hear a bit more from you all about it. Ultimately, I think a lot of the feedback was, if we could summarize it into kind of like one sentence, would be, the reassurance that you're not the only one going through what you're going through. So sort of like that life of a buyer feel, but it's actually in real life. So
Yes.
it's that connection and it's that extension of the community.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm. And lots of
and
people sharing numbers and contacts and making new friends. Like, we all think the same. We all have a similar personality trait.
a similar mindsets,
Brilliant space to
definitely.
come and, yeah, make new friends and you offload, share your experiences.
Yeah, and we've kept it for sort of, it is all levels, I was going to say all abilities, but you know what I mean, all ages, all levels, because actually we think that there isn't always necessarily the opportunity for there to be that much kind of like cross level, cross retailer
Yeah.
collaboration. So at the moment,
Yeah.
we're keeping it open to everybody. It may be that at some point, actually, we get so big and there's so much that actually it does feel good to kind of like sort of do sort of
A bit of
targeted
a reach out.
events
Yeah.
that
Mhm.
for each kind of sort of team or
Yeah.
category or sort of level. But at the moment, we just want to keep it very much open and it just be a real kind of retail buying. And talking
Yeah.
about different levels, we actually on the same day as doing our networking event, we did a talk at the FRA, the Fashion Retail Academy.
Hmm.
For those aren't aware of the FRA. Although I wouldn't be surprised if you weren't, because it is a well-known name, well-known establishment. They do some brilliant courses. We were there to speak with the level 4 buying and merchandising cohort, which is kind of like a short fast track program
Yeah.
for students looking to get into fashion retail buying. And we had a great time, didn't we? Sort of
Yeah, we did.
that taking center stage.
Yeah, exactly. We had a nice little presentation of our careers and a little mood board of all the things we loved in buying. And it really just so nice to just talk about all the really positive things. Because I think sometimes when you get together with other buyers, you can just like really easily go, a bit too far down the negative road. And I think I was worried a little bit about that for our event, but it wasn't like that, was
Oh,
it,
it
Kate?
didn't
The
go down that
mixture
like
of
that at all. No.
mixture of like why you love it and what your challenges are. And so yeah, so I think it was great to talk to these students and tell them our pathways and our journeys and our experiences, but also just to make them aware of like, how challenging the industry
And
can
the
be
watch
and
outs.
watch outs and kind of like how, I think what I took away from that day was our sort of parting message to the room was stay in contact with each other because it's all about networking, collaboration, chatting to one another. We need to open the door a bit more in this industry, and hopefully that's what we're facilitating. And I think we didn't really plan to say that at the end of that talk, did we? And it was just an organic conversation that was leading that way. And we started this because we stayed in touch, and
Yeah.
it's helped us enormously throughout our careers. So yeah, I thought it was quite a nice organic end to the chat, wasn't it, with those students, and really kind of led nicely into the fact that we were doing a networking event that evening.
Yeah, 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 and getting more people to kind of to communicate. Because I think just to extend on that is that it is all about kind of collaboration and sharing and making those connections. But where the creativity is sometimes lost. And I think that was one of the things when people are talking about what they love about buying, so much of it is the creativity that you have. And whether that is that you are a product development buyer or a strategic branded buying, it's all about that creative thinking and how to make yourself be different. How do you stand out in a crowded kind of like retail space? But so many people, maybe with all the outside things that have been happening and the outside pressures that have been coming on us, and we've said it before, we don't like using this word anymore because it was overused in, say, the 2020s, but unprecedented things that keep coming up, that
Hmm.
takes away from really kind of having the time to be creative and think about your product when you're too
Yeah.
busy thinking about your logistics. And as buyers, that's not really where you want to spend your time and your thoughts. So,
Mm,
um, yeah,
exactly. Lovely, nice blend there.
yeah.
So, as
Which
we've
it should
said,
bring us to the end because we
it
we
should
could
bring us to
talk
the end.
and
As
talk and
we as
talk.
we've said, if you're really interested in joining our community, please do pop onto the website, join the wait list, and we will, as soon as we have sorted the next event out, we will email out to you. And we're really excited to meet you. And if anybody wants to come on the podcast and share their story, we're always looking for buyers, at all levels to come on.
But
It's your
and
stage.
hearing about buying stories, and no story is ever boring.
No, definitely
Let's
not.
face it,
This industry.
not in retail.
Great. So, what have you got next week, Kate? What's the list?
So next week, it's well, hopefully feels very on season, but we're going to be talking to the Outdoor Edit about their range, so range of accessories for outside the home. So expanding that interior space to exteriors.
Yes, very exciting. Something very close to my heart. So, yes, I'm very excited to chat to them. Right, guys, have a fantastic week and tune in next week to hear all about that.
Right, bye. If you're a product-based business, whether it's home or accessories, plant pots or jewelry,
Or any other product for that matter, as we have experience in over 35 product categories.
then you might be interested to know that we have created a retail-ready bootcamp just for you.
Are you ready to land in retail stores, scale with confidence, or finally understand what buyers really want?
We've created a 6-week intensive program built for businesses and brands like yours, designed by us, two former head of buyings with over 30 years of combined experience in retail.
Each week, we'll run a live 1 hour session covering everything you need to become retail ready. We'll cover topics such as how to refine your offer to meet buyers' expectations, nailing your pricing for profit, finding the right stockists, building your go to market and trade strategy, leveraging relationships to grow, and how to manage orders, stock, and retail partnerships like a pro, and so much more.
You'll also get a one-to-one session with us for tailored brand feedback, our retail readiness toolkit to take away with you, and access to a WhatsApp group for community, collaboration, and accountability. We don't just teach, we open up the floor each session for honest, collaborative discussions with other ambitious businesses.
So if you're tired of guessing what buyers want, this is the time to find out. Head to www.buyingandbeyond.co.uk/bootcamp to join. See you there. If you've enjoyed listening to this episode, please, please, please like and subscribe and leave a review.
And if you already have, thank you, thank you, thank you. We all need a bit of retail therapy, and this is the perfect time for you to offload about that super cringeworthy story. We would love to hear from you all, your funny stories and experiences, or even any dilemmas, and maybe we can help, or at least find someone who can. And don't worry, we will keep these anonymous and remove any names and brands.
We would also love to hear from you on any topics you would like us to talk about. Please send all of these into buyingandbeyond@gmail.com or drop us a DM via our Instagram page @buyingandbeyond. Kate, are you a drama queen?
No,
Drama just makes things interesting.
that's true.
All these thoughts and opinions are our own and based on our own experiences working for a wide variety of retailers. These are all in the hope to entertain and educate, and not to reflect negatively on any place we currently or have previously worked.